So what most people don't know is that when they remember the event, they're producing the same chemistry in their brain and body as if the event was happening. So let's just say you have a traumatic experience and you keep thinking about and remembering that experience 50 to 100 times in one day. And that emotion now is really stored in the body. The trauma is not just in the brain now, the trauma is in the body. That person living in that state is doing their best to not recreate that experience again. So anytime they're in a situation that relates to anything similar to what happens in the past, their brain automatically starts forecasting that future event. And so now, as they begin to select some possible reality in their future and emotionally embrace it, they're conditioning their body further into that experience. So then the gene expression of that person will be exactly the same. They'll keep signaling the same gene in the same way. If you keep signaling the same gene over and over again, genes start to wear out, and we start making cheaper proteins. And the proteins are no longer the expression of health or the expression of life. And because genes do make proteins, and proteins are responsible for the structure and function of the body, the person all of a sudden starts to break down. Some system starts to break down physiologically in their bodies. So that could be a person could have a hereditary condition that may be cancer, someone it may be MS, the other person it may be Parkinson's, but whatever the hereditary gene that's passed on from their parents will probably be the gene that begins to become selected and instructed. So the question is, if the stress hormones, which are the primary emotions that people feel on a regular basis, the majority of the time, downregulate genes to create disease, and you can turn on the stress response just by thinking about your problems, then it means that your thoughts can literally make you sick. And the question is, if your thoughts could make you sick, is it possible then that your thoughts could make you well? So to the person who's had the trauma or the betrayal, and for them to step outside of the familiar territory and give up their suffering is the process of change. It's stepping from the known into the unknown. And people who live in those emotional states always tend to tell the story of why they are that way emotionally. And so they have to start telling a new story. They have to start beginning to become conscious of their unconscious thoughts, become aware of how they speak or their unconscious habits, or start to pay more attention to the emotions that they feel. And that concept in neuroscience is called metacognition. So how you think, how you act, and how you feel is your personality. And your personality has a direct correlation with your personal reality. So if you want to change your personal reality, that means you have to change your personality. So if 90% of most people's thoughts are the same thoughts as the day before, and nerve cells that fire together wire together, if you keep thinking the same way, those thoughts will become hardwired attitudes. If you keep blaming and complaining and making excuses and feeling sorry for yourself, and you do that over and over again, you'll develop a habit. A habit is when you've done something so many times that it's automatic. Your body knows how to do it better than your conscious mind. And if you're living by the same familiar emotions and it feels like you when you suffer, then you're going to have to become so conscious of those emotional states that you wouldn't go unconscious and return back to it. And that is the fundamental process of change. And most people then in this work that want to heal realize it's not about their healing. They realize, what is it about myself that I have to change in order to heal? So what thoughts do I want to think in my brain, that I want to fire and wire in my brain? And with attention and intention if they pay attention and review it, they'll begin to install new neurological hardware. If they keep repeating it, the hardware will become like a software program, and now they'll install a new thought in their head that says, I can. It is possible. If they decided before they started their day who they no longer wanted to be and how they did want to act in their life with their children, with their partner, with their coworkers, when they're in traffic, and they closed their eyes and they mentally rehearsed who they were going to be. The research in neuroscience says that when you close your eyes and you rehearse an act, if you're truly present, the brain will not know the difference between the actual experience and what you're imagining. The brain will look like the experience has already happened. Now, the brain is no longer a record of the past. Now it's a map to the future. And as you install that hardware, if you keep doing it, it'll become more automatic, like a software program. And naturally, you'll begin to behave that way. Now, this is the hard part, I think, for all of us. Can we teach our body emotionally what our future reality will feel like before it actually happens? Our work suggests that if you feel the emotion ahead of the actual experience, your body being objective, you can teach your body emotionally that it'll begin to believe that it's actually living in a different environment. Now, what's the importance of that? Because if you can feel that emotion ahead of the actual experience and you keep practicing that, and you will no longer look for when it's going to happen or why it's going to happen, because you feel like it has already happened. And that is what begins to seal change in the person's brain and body. So then you start seeing a change in gene expression. You start seeing a change in immune regulation. We see that thousands of different metabolites on a cellular level are released into the bloodstream that begin to restore and repair the body. And the process of change then is unlearning and relearning. It's breaking the habit of the old self and reinventing a new self. It's pruning synaptic connections and sprouting new connections. It's unfiring and unwiring and refiring and rewiring. It's deprogramming and reprogramming. It's literally losing your mind and creating a new one. It's unmemorizing emotions that keep us stuck in the past and then reconditioning the brain and body to a new emotional state, into a new future. And people who actually go from one personality to another personality, I think they realize that nothing changes in our lives until we change. And it's not something that you learn in one bite. It's something that you have to constantly remind yourself of, because so many people are programmed into believing that they need something outside of them to change their internal state. And we're actually seeing from so much of our research that you can make such substantial changes in 1 week that your body is literally believing it's living in a new reality.